Question number 10. Indian government bond yields are influenced by which of the following? Actions of United States Federal Reserve, actions of the Reserve Bank of India, inflation and short-term interest rate. See, before you answer this question, you need to know this bond yield. They are asking influenced by. They did not asking whether the bond yield increases or decreases. They are not asking about that. They are not asking whether the bond yield is increasing or decreasing. They are only asking whether the bond yield is influenced or not. And this bond yield concept, if you read newspapers regularly, you will get this item. So I cannot consider it as a conceptual thing, but I will consider it as a current issue. Though lot of concepts are involved in this bond yield, but it is regularly happening in the newspaper in one or other way, so I can consider it as the current issue, but not the conceptual issue. But there is a lot of concept behind this bond yield. Now I'll ask a question. Bond yields are influenced by which of the following? Now I am asking a question. There is one parameter which affects the bond yield, which is common with these three options. So now if you want to know what are the things that will influence the bond yield, you must know what is the parameter that affects the bond yield. That you must know. Okay. So I'll explain. Bond yield. See, bond yield means, suppose government has issued a bond, RBI has issued a bond, and these bonds, all bonds are zero coupon bonds, because you will get at the lesser rate, and you will be redeemed with the par value. But anyhow, keeping that issue aside, I am just giving an example. This bond is going to fetch 60,000 rupees after 3 years. Just assume the bond maturity is 3 years. And 60,000 rupees you will get at the end of 3 years. Just assume. But you purchased it for 50,000 rupees. Just assume. Now, I will draw two possible cases. One is, if there is a more demand for this bond, that means the people want to purchase this bond more. Why? Because I will explain why there is a more demand for this bond. I will try to explain that. But just assume there is a more demand for this bond. Then they will get 60,000 rupees on this bond. But as there is a huge demand, this person will try to sell it to the 55,000 rupees to that. Now, as there is a more demand to this bond, this person will try to sell it to the another person at 60,000 rupees. I will draw another condition where there is a less amount of demand for this bond, so he will try to sell it at only 48,000 rupees. And as it is very less demand, this person is also trying to sell it at around 45,000 rupees. No one is purchasing. So when the demand for the bond is very high, when the demand for bond is very low. See, he is invested 50,000 rupees. He got total amount of 60, that means 10,000 rupees as interest. 10,000 rupees as interest. So 10,000 rupees as interest in 50,000 rupees means 1/5 means 20% interest that he is getting on this bond. But when the demand for bond is very high, now it is how much? It is 5,000. The difference is 5 by 55. That means 1 by 11, less than 20%. That means here the interest rate what he is getting is less than 20%. and here is much lesser than 20% interest, because he is invested 60,000 and he is getting 60,000. Literally here he is not getting any interest, it's zero interest. It's less than 20% interest. Now just under this case, now here he is getting 20,000 rupees interest, but he has spent only 40,000 rupees. That means 1 by 2, 50%. One by 2. So now this is 50. Now this will be 25 by, sorry, this 48, no? 48. That means 12,000 by 48,000. 1 by 4, 25%. Now just take 15 by 45. 1 by 3, 33%. That means if you looking into the interest rates, that means the yield they are getting. Here the yield on the bond, that means how much he is yielding from that bond. He paid 50, he is getting 60, that means the yield is 10,000, the yield percent is 20, the yield percent is less than 20, the yield percent is 0. That means the yield is coming down in this, the yield is going in this. The yield is increasing in this case, the yield is coming down in this case. The yield is nothing but interest rate. Now I will ask a simple question, why actually there is a huge demand for this? Simply the thing is, as the interest rate is coming down now, suppose normally in the normal, suppose here the interest rate they are offering is 20%, just assume. Suppose if the normal banking system has started reducing the banking rates, then people don't want to invest in the normal banking system, because there we are getting only less amount of interest. So that is the reason why we wanted to invest in an instrument where they are offering more. But the point is, when they are trying to invest in this, as the bond value goes up, it has become equivalented to the banking interest rate over a period of time. Suppose when the interest rate is 20 here, but if the bank is offering a more interest rate, let it be 30 or 40, then the point is people don't want to invest in this and people will try to shift to the banking system. That is the reason why they will sell away at throwaway, they sell it at throwaway prices, and because of that the interest rate increases and it will reach to the banking system at a particular point of time in this course. So now on the overall, the bank yield and the entire thing, what you understood is whether the bond yield increases or decreases, it depending on the interest rates in the economy. Interest rates in the economy. That's all depending on interest rates in the economy. Now, once you understand this concept, now I will come to this. Now, bond yields are influenced by which of the following? What parameter will really affect the bond yield? Interest rate in the economy. Interest rate in the economy will actually decides the bond yield in the economy. Now, inflation and short-term interest rate, yes, obviously, because the term itself includes the interest rate, and inflation will decide the interest rate and short-term interest rate will decide the interest rate. So, third one correct. Correct. Next, actions of Reserve Bank of India, definitely. So, second statement is also correct. Now, there is a possibility that everything can be correct. Now, I am looking into now 2 and 3 correct, no? So, 2 and 3 correct. Now, I can go with directly the last option, 2 and 3, because Reserve Bank of India's action is correct and inflation and short-term inflation is correct because both are influencing interest rate. Now, the first one, actions of the United States Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve in the sense United States of America's the federal bank, like means how we have an RBI, they have the supreme bank. So, their action means if they increase the interest rate, if they increase the interest rate. So, if they increase the interest rate, then that will affect the domestic investments, especially the foreign institutional investors. Foreign institutional investor. Suppose if the Federal Reserve Bank has increased the interest rate, then all the investors who invested in India, FIIs, they will move away from India. So that means there is an imbalance here that leads to some sort of disinflation, and that leads to change in interest rate. Suppose if they reduce the entire interest rates, then again all the amount of foreign exchanges will flood to this country, that will have its own effect on inflation, that in turn they will have the effect on interest rates. So that means these three parameters are affecting the interest rates in the economy. So as the interest rate changes, bond yield changes. So the bond yield influenced by these three factors. So your answer is D.
Amrita IAS Academy.